Welcome to Surrender School.
I'm calling this the circle of change. And basically, the way that it works is the need to change is something that's happening organically inside of you. It's probably why you were here, right? There's this need to change that is there. That starts on the inside. The actual change itself starts on the outside with a change in our behavior, right? So that's the part that we do in step 7. So like I said last week, we don't go out and sunbathe, right? We actually are working. And the way that we do that, and this is the key, we show our willingness to change. We show that to our higher power and to ourselves by trying the opposite. So that is what we're doing. We have this need to change. I am ready, right? Entirely ready to have this one defect removed. And the way that I show that I'm ready, the way that I show that I'm willing, is I try the opposite. And what I really want to make sure that everybody understands, it doesn't mean that I perfectly do the opposite. It means I try. And I use the example of a little, year-old baby who's trying to walk, right? They take 2 steps and fall down, and we cheer because they took 2 steps. And that's the way I want you to feel about yourself as you're trying to do this. Because when we're trying to do the opposite, we're going to do it badly. We just will, right? But we see it. We see our efforts. We see the changes. And what's happening is we're doing the work that we're doing, our greater power, whatever you call our greater power, I call it God, right? Comes in and makes the changes. So I'm doing the work, showing my willingness, and God is making the changes. Because these are changes that I've tried to do myself that I can't do. I mean, I absolutely know that is true. Okay, so here is the opening share. How will you show your willingness? And I'd like it to be structured something like this, but once again, I'm not religious about it. The only rule is don't show up naked. So this is a place to start. So if you, however you want to share is fine, but what I'd like to hear is I'm ready to have this defense removed, whatever the defense is, name it. And then I'm willing to try the opposite, which is name it. So tell me, what is the opposite of that? Right. So I have so many examples that I've used in my past. I'm going to say right now. So this is from 30 years ago. I'm ready to have the defense of getting in someone's face removed. I want that gone. I want that getting angrily in someone's face removed. I'm willing to try the opposite, which is, and that's how we use the pause. That is literally what the first thing I asked for was the pause. I just want the pause so that I can decide, is this worth getting in someone's face over? And by the way, I happen to believe there are times that it's worth getting in someone's face. Now, that I'm not saying that you should feel that way, but even to this day, there are times that it's worth it. So I'm not an enemy of anger at all. But I also know that pause that allows me to decide, is this worthy of this? Is this worth this? Is this worth messing up a relationship? Is this worth, I get that pause. And 99% of the time, no, right? That initial, I say, nope, thank you, ego. I appreciate that. I'm glad I still have the skill to get in someone's face, but I'm not going to do that. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing, and we're going to open this up for shares. So I'm hoping, and we're going to spend quite a bit on time on this because we don't have breakouts today. And this is probably not 100% selfish, but damn close to 100% selfish because I want to hear this and I don't get to hear it in the breakout room. So that's the reason here, because we move on to step 7, and I'm going to give a very specific assignment later. So you'll know exactly what your assignment is for next week, or it's 2 weeks long. You have 2 weeks to do it. Don't put it off, which everybody does, by the way. Okay. All right. Shirley, to you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Shirley. I introduce myself as slowly but surely because it reminds me I'm a work in progress. So I'm a 2, and I am going to talk first about my defense of people pleasing and the way it shows up in my life. Buying things for people, saying yes when I mean no, giving compliments. For example, staying out of my body, just running away from myself, self-abandonment, and saying things just to be acknowledged and accepted. And so that's kind of the background. So what I'm noticing is, first of all, I just want to say I have been a nervous wreck leading up to today because I have placed a lot of performance and achievement around this sentence that you've posted, Sharon, and I have to keep reminding myself to pause. And that in and of itself is a a miracle. And to tell myself that I think that the dot between my people pleasing and being rid of it have to be connected today. And that's not the truth. That's just another story I tell myself on top of all my other stories. So anyway, so I am ready to have this one defense of people pleasing removed. And I've been noticing the past few days, like for example, I always end up at people's houses where like they're the type of people that take up a lot of space in the room. You know, they're very narcissistic, need a lot of attention, and want all the focus on them. And yesterday I said to myself, I'm just not going to her house. I don't care who's going to be there. And that was huge for me. And also it was huge because I didn't have those feelings afterwards of like, did I make the right decision? Should I have gone? It just felt much easier. And I know it's not going to always feel like that, but it did. I had a glimpse of it yesterday. A big thing for me is the pause. If I can just, whoa, big boy, slow down, Shirley. And then going back to my mantra, which we talked about last week, asking for what I need and then asking again and trusting my inner wisdom, trusting my instincts. I've like trained myself away from that, and that I am just going to trust that I am worthy of love and attention. And I will shift from a deprivation mindset to an abundance mindset. And I will notice when my true voice is coming out, like it is right now. I've been paying attention to boundaries. I will practice boundaries. And I will focus on self-care, kindness, and compassion. Now, these are a little bit ideal, but that's okay. As long as I remind myself it's practice. Thank you.
And Shirley, oh, I'm just beyond delighted by what you said, because yeah, it's like no pressure at all, because the idea is just the fact that you recognize and you see that and you recognize and go, okay, right? And there was something I read the other day. I think I posted it or saw it. I can't remember. And it talked about for the twos that the question that you ask is, I'm going to make a decision. Is it for my benefit? In other words, is it tied to my best self, like that, right?
Uh-huh.
And I thought, and it was just, I'll see if I can find it again and I'll send it to you, Shirley, because
Okay.
it's one of those, because the idea there, the twos are not used to asking, is
Right.
this something better for me to do or not do? And one of the things you said too about practicing the idea of saying no, I guess, right, is that, and we talked about this during office hours. So sometimes for the opposite that the two can do is not say no, I'm not going to do that. It's just say, I'm not willing to do this, but I am willing to do this, right? And that's a
Right.
softer way to basically, you're saying no to what they're asking for, but then you search your soul to say, what am I willing to do that would be of help to them, but still gets to reserve my boundary, right? So, and Shirley, I am just delighted by what you said.
Oh, thank you all.
Beyond that.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone at Surrender School. And I just want to say, P.S., the changes are organic. I'm not in charge of them.
And we do the work in our greater power. And once again, I've said this before, and I will say it over and over and over again. Every philosophy in the world forever has always believed that there is a power that is greater than us, that basically we can invoke and bring to the forefront and help us. So every 12-step program believes that, every religion believes that, every philosophies, even of atheists, believe that there is some power beyond us that animates all of us, and that we can somehow invoke it and utilize it. And that's really what we're doing here. So that's awesome. Thank you, Shirley, so much. All right, Cheryl, to you.
Oh, okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Cheryl, and I am a type 4. We discussed maybe checking out another personality type. I need to work on that. So I wanted to pick a defense that was going to be different from others, because the one I picked is very, very common. Why do I want to pick one that's different from others? What my issue is my issue. And then I was thinking to myself, well, 100 other people in this meeting are probably going to pick the same one. Are you sure you want to work on that? Well, yes, Cheryl, that's the one I need to work on. Simple or not simple? But actually, if it's the biggest defense, it's really not that simple. So here I go. I am entirely ready to have this one defense of anger removed. I have had a lot of anger towards different family members for not giving me the respect I've deserved, for not checking up on me over the years. I've had a lot of resentment for my mother leaving me. How could she leave me? You know how much I needed you, Mom, and I was angry for many, many years at God for taking my mother. I was angry at myself for not knowing where I was going in life. I just floated around and I didn't have a purpose and I didn't have a career choice, just like myself as a human being. And I was angry at myself. I thinking and knowing that I should appreciate myself. I'm not a bad human being, so why do I have so much horrible words to say about myself? So anyway, I am willing to show I show my willingness to have it removed by doing the opposite, which is to be more accepting of people's behaviors. And I have already seen progress with that. As I've said in this group, I had no intention of having a relationship with my sister, and it changed. Things that I said and she did in my way of fixing myself, she responded positively. And now I have a good possibility of having a relationship with my sister and having her back in my life. And with
Awesome.
that, I'm going to pass. There's a lot of people here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl. Yeah, and I think it isn't like when I talk about that I'm not an angry person anymore and I don't get angry. It doesn't mean that I don't get irritated and there isn't, because my ego will always be there and anger is the underlying for the 8, right? It just jumps up. But I used to act on it and I don't act on it now. And that is what I'm seeing in you. The first thing to leave, that's why I talk about the need comes from the inside, but the actions, our behavior is where it starts. That's where we start it. So we don't say the things, even if it pops into our head because the ego is jumped up and wow, right? It's like, okay, I'm not going to say that. I might still feel it. What happens over time? So I want to really encourage you on this. What happens over time is that acceptance, just like, okay, in the old days, I would have been mad about this, but who gives a fuck? So maybe that'll be your new mantra. I'm kidding, but right.
Thank you.
But
Thank you from the bottom of my heart for everything.
you bet. Thank you. All right. So Jim, to you.
Okay, so the areas I'm going to focus on, or I'm going to let go into the universe, are envy and self-pity. I chose these. In writing this, I realized I could have wrote a lot more on this, but for what I've written, and hopefully I've answered this statement today, Cheryl. I'm entirely ready to have what I'm describing as a crossover, envy, self-pity, defense removed, as I try every day in some way not to highlight what others have, but to be grateful for that which I have and the decision making that led to those choices. Choices that have led to many personal achievements and many wonderful adventures, each in turn contributing to my growth as a human being. I developed a mixed understanding of self-pity as a consequence of a spinal injury in late childhood, leading to myself appearing not to acknowledge natural barriers I face, and in deciding not to acknowledge these natural barriers for fear of how that would make me feel, this led to choices preventing me finding my true self as I became enmeshed in other people's story. And when I did find my true self in other seasons of life, mixed messages through generational dysfunction prevented my understanding and acknowledgement of personal success. So the healing I experienced in communities like Surrender School and the community built around Surrender School's programs and other self-healing decisions, I understand now that it's not so much resilience but boundaries I've developed. These positive boundaries have led to my rediscovery of personal growth and the everyday understanding that my self-worth and successes are not determined by the ways other people choose to compare their life with my own. And That's all she wrote.
Awesome. So I'm going to ask a question. So what is the
Mhm.
what is an opposite behavior that you're going to try to do in step 7?
In step 7, the opposite behavior would be to acknowledge my successes and to be
Awesome. Yeah.
grateful for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to be grateful for them. I love that, especially because you said envy and self-pity. That's that mixture. So yeah, that's awesome. Thank you. And once again, the
Thanks.
reason, by the way, I'm asking you what is the opposite that you're going to try to do is because this is how you see it. Because if we don't see it, and Lori and I were talking about that earlier today, if I don't see the change in myself, right? If you pick something grand and huge and you don't see a change relatively quickly, you lose momentum. And I want you to be able to see a change, because not only do I want you to see what you are doing differently, I want you to see the power of your greater power acting in your life. That is step 7. When we do that, that's when things start coming alive. And then it makes the rest of the steps just sing, right? And that's what we want. All right. Thank you, Jim, so much. All right, Emma, to you.
Sure.
Thank you. Gosh, I hope I've chosen the right one. Okay, so I am entirely ready to have the defense of, and I've named it as withdrawal, from people, situations, life, and I think, you know, and it has isolation. It sort of, I isolate myself with withdrawal, but it also leads to being isolated. And I think it's a form of control, of me controlling my environment. So if I feel scared, I'll withdraw. If I feel threatened or hurt and angry with somebody, I'll withdraw. I'll take myself away, almost in punishment to them, to take myself away. But actually, I'm punishing myself and isolating myself as well. So that is the defense. I show my willingness to have it removed by doing the opposite, which is behaving with courage to stay vulnerable and feel my feelings, trust in my higher power that all will be well, trust that I am enough, trust that I am safe, think of others instead of myself, because I do actually, having done the work in 4, 5, and 6, I've sort of seen that actually I'm just so in my head, you know, am I safe? It's all about me rather than thinking of other people. So think of others instead of myself and what I can give to any situation I find myself in. Be and stay humble and accept life as it comes. Be honest, open, and more trusting. Stay present, be authentic, love myself and love others.
And if you can do all those things, I want you to be my best friend.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's a big ask.
It's a lot. No, I think that's wonderful though, because it's like you're painting the picture of what it looks like to stay instead of withdraw, right? That's wonderful. That's exactly what you want to do, because then you're going to see it. And then each time that you stay when it's uncomfortable, and by the way, that withdrawal, there's 2 things that are feeding the withdrawal, right? That is your ego response to things. The first is the fact that probably as a 4, you've been told to put a lid on it your entire life, right? Emotional, oh, put a lid on, come on, you're going to cry again, like that, right? And then the other thing is you have a 5 wing, and a 5 wing isolates. That's what they do. The 5s isolate. So those 2 things together are part of like built-in defenses that you use. So this is a big one that you have chosen. I think it's wonderful. And the fact that you've painted the vision of what it's going to look like, it means you're going to get to see that. So every time that you stay when you want to not stay, and you stay and you're there with other people, celebrate it. Just celebrate it like hell, because that is how the change happens. I love that. That is wonderful.
Okay.
Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. You bet. Jasmine, to you. Thank you, Emma.
Hey, Cher. So much is coming up for me. I'm entirely ready to have this one defense of avoiding conflict removed. And I show my willingness to have it removed by doing the opposite, which is, and I wrote about how I can express my feelings and concerns with honesty and respect instead of avoiding difficult conversations. I can embrace conflict as an opportunity for deeper understanding rather than a threat to relationships, which I feel like that was on the example, but it's very true. Being willing to feel to sit in discomfort in the short term in order to find workable solutions instead of like being in the drama triangle. To bring my loving parent on board versus letting younger parts run the show. And I could do this by breaking the don't talk, don't trust, don't feel rule, don't see, don't remember rule. Just like that passive going along to get along stuff when the house is burning down. I'm so sick of living my life in denial. So I really want to just be solution focused and like be of value in a situation too. It's kind of like dealing with life on life's terms, and not looking for external validation and just being my authentic self and coming home to self, returning to self and who I am and my likes and my needs, my desires. On the flip side of that, I was thinking about how narcissistic, I'm an inverted narcissist. I am a codependent. So I'm inverted narcissist. So the reason I picked this one is because avoiding conflict, I'm vulnerable to narcissistic personality disorder men or people. So avoiding conflict kind of plays into that cycle because they test boundaries and they look for people who won't set them. So that's my vulnerability. But I also play a part in that. Like I participate by not setting boundaries, dealing with issues. So I was thinking about how there was a time like earlier on in the steps, in the beginning of the year, I would have been like, because those narcissists and very judgmental. But I realized that it's not even personal for them. I'm one, I do it. Like, see me. And I'm learning how to pull back in and just be in my skin and not have to be attention seeking, like Shirley mentioned, and just, it's okay. I can relax. I don't have to promote myself. I can attract with the true self that is more attractive. So there's that. I'm not judging people the same, and I'm not trying to get that external validation stuff. And it's really interesting to like go into other people's world and not be so self-absorbed. And I just have a whole new way of being in my body that I'm noticing a shift from working the steps in surrender school. And it's really a beautiful thing. How are we already in June, like almost July, but I'm just so grateful for this program. And I'm grateful for the change, even if it's just that little thing.
And it's not a little thing, it's a big thing. And I want to say, this is something that you probably didn't even recognize that you said, and I love it. And that is that the opposite. So not standing up for yourself, the opposite of that isn't in getting in someone's face. It's standing up for yourself. And there's energy in there's energy in getting in someone's face. There's energy in pulling back, but there's a calm energy in just stating the truth, right? Or stating your truth, stating the way you view the world. That's wonderful. The other thing I want to say, a lot of people, the story of Narcissus, most people have heard the story of Narcissus, that he stared at his reflection in the lake until he fell in and drowned, right? But what most people don't know is there was another character in that story, and it was his best buddy called Echo. And everything that he said, that Echo echoed back to him, right? And Narcissus can't even survive without Echo, right? And so many people become the echo and they don't even realize that's what's happening. And you're seeing that in yourself, which is just absolutely awesome. I just love that, because that is why we have inquiry. That is why we ask the questions, because we see, when we see it, we go, oh my God, seriously, really? Right? And it's like, yeah. And I have to say, surrender, doing this workshop, because I'm also working the steps the first time through like this, is changing my life too. So when people say that, I am with you. I'm with you, sister, because I get it. That's what's happening with me too. Thank you, Jasmine. All right, Rosalind, to you.
Hi. Oh my gosh, Cheryl, this is like putting myself out there. I have been telling myself for the past month or so, the story in my head is, you've missed so many, you too far behind, you don't need to go back, stop right now. And so this is hitting dead on to the place where I go is isolation, when I call myself being safe. And one of the fellow travelers that I was talking with was like, you're telling stories in your head, you're telling stories. So just come back. But so I haven't done much of the work, but I do know that my defense is isolation. Second guessing, did I do it right? Did I say it right? Does it look right? Is one that'll make me retreat really quick if I see an expression that I wasn't right, so but my working on this now, which I'm doing and it's showing up big time, is stop running. That's why I'm here. Stop running, stop pre-guessing, just do it and keep doing it until it happens. And so I'm learning that I'm entirely ready, because your mantra, I have everything I need right now in this moment. And all I have to do is keep walking in that. Yeah. So thanks for letting me share that. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Rosalind. And I want to say too, the only way to do it wrong is to not do it, right? So it's like as we go through that, and that's one of the things that's going to happen as a result of, and I hope people like this, as a result of the review that I'm doing a week from today. We're going to have an opportunity for people to be kind observers to people that join, and some of us to catch up, right? And then, and so we're going to facilitate that so that people have the kind observer for step 5, because it was so much more powerful than we ever imagined it would be. I mean, the power of a kind observer observing and listening for the steps. I mean, I thought it was a good idea, but I had no idea it was going to have the impact that it had. So for people that are catching up, I'm going to have, that's what the review is about. Here is how you catch up so that you catch up with us. So if anybody hasn't had a chance to do the homework, come to the review, we'll record it. So then you can catch up easily so that you're on step 7 when we go into step 7. That's really the goal. So thank you, Rosalind, for being so honest and for being here, for coming back. I appreciate that. All right, Joe, to you.
Hi, I'm Jo, type 4. I'm entirely ready to have this one defense of, kind of called it 3 things, but it's the same thing, sort of lack of self-belief, self-deprecating, being hard on myself. It's something that people have happened to have mentioned a few times recently. I show my willingness to have it removed by doing the opposite, which is faith in myself and my decisions and realizing I have worth. And it's quite interesting because I kind of was thinking about it, and then I classically fell into the very thing I'm trying to do the opposite of. So if I could get any feedback on how to do it or any sort of help. But so basically today.
Okay, this is perfect because.
Can I give a quick example of what happened?
Please.
Really quick.
Yeah.
So I had this beautiful day, right? Walk in the sun with my son, went to church, made a new friend. She asked for my WhatsApp number. She was a lovely American lady. So I'm very fond of Americans. And I was like, oh, wow, I made a new friend. Everything cool. One comment from my daughter, not even really bad, but just like, Mum, you didn't have to share that with someone. And literally my whole day is like, now I go into catastrophe mode. I've done something wrong. And then I'm like, well, I've done something wrong. Everything's wrong. I've made all the wrong decisions in life. That's why I'm alone. And I go in a millisecond. So that's what I mean by kind of, staying in that groundedness when someone just makes a tiny comment or something tiny goes wrong. But yeah, sorry, Cher.
No, that's good. No, that's a perfect example. Okay, so just like with the 2s, the opposite isn't getting in someone's face. Just like the 9, the opposite isn't like taking over, just, you know what I'm saying? So with the 4, in the case that you're talking about, so self-condemnation is probably the thing that you want to call it. You are ready to have the self-condemnation, that defense of self-condemnation, which is a protective defense by your ego. You're ready to have that removed. And the way you have that removed is not by more feelings. It's by doing. It's a do. So the things that you said were all, so I'll feel differently and I'll feel, no. It is a do. And the do says you use your, we're going to cover mantras here when we're finished with this section. We're going to go over the mantras. And the mantra for the 4 is I have everything I need in this moment to grow. I have everything I need. And that includes I have self-love. I have all the things that I need in order to do that. In addition to that, this is going to be really hard, but when someone says something like that, somehow, right, you need to go look in a mirror and say, you are all that in a bag of chips, or whatever it is you need to say. You need to look in the mirror and tell yourself, you are all good. You are absolutely what you need to be, regardless of anyone else's opinion of that. You are everything that you need to be, and you have everything you need in this moment to grow, period. Look in the mirror, tell yourself that. That is a do.
Ironically, yeah, really ironically, the conversation before was a lovely conversation with my sister on the phone where I told her not to care about what other people think. And then I fell bang into that
I know,
trap myself.
but exactly.
Like,
and
what?
so, yep. And so, you know how I have that list of people I'll wait for and people I won't wait for?
Yeah.
So as a 4, you need a list of people you will listen to and people you
Yeah.
won't listen to. And you can
Yeah.
love them, love them up, love them dearly, but you
Yeah.
don't listen to them, right?
Yeah. I mean, she's my beautiful 18-year-old daughter who I totally love. But being told off, feeling told off like a school kid, being told, you know,
Yeah.
Mom, you didn't
Yeah.
have to tell my coworker
So,
that. I'm
and,
like,
and I do,
"Come
and
on."
I do, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I will say, so the emotional sobriety book, the Ellen Berger emotional sobriety book, make
Mm.
that your friend. It's
Mm.
such a good book, and there's so much in it that I mean, I have 3 books that I basically go to all the time. The first is the Alan Berger book. The second, obviously, is the big book, because I think that it is just absolutely God-given. And then the
Mm.
third is the Wisdom of the Enneagram, which we're going to begin reading here soon at
Cool.
our reading room. So at our Tuesday and Wednesday morning reading room. So those 3 books, to me, that it's like I'll find others, I'm sure. But anyway, so Joe, but think there
Yeah.
is a do that you have to do. So, and I'm not. This isn't a kind of sorta. I mean, go look in the mirror, like. You get away from there, and instead of ruminating over that, go to the mirror and say, I have everything I need in this moment to grow. You tell yourself that you're beautiful, that you're awesome, that I mean, all the good things that you want to be, tell yourself you are that, because frankly, you are that, right? But
Yeah.
it gets in the way. So, okay, thank you. But yeah,
Thank
just
you.
and 4s, remember that the answer to whatever's going on is not a feel, it's a do. It has to be a do for the 4s. Just like for the 8s, it's not a do. I'll just say that. So Naylor, you're laughing. So trust me, it's not a do. It's a do nothing, right? So thank you, Joe.
Thank you so much.
You bet. Robin, to you.
Hi. My defense is denial of needs. It was on the 2. I'm a 2, and I have been pride, but what's really interesting about choosing denial of needs is that in his book, Michael Naylor's book, he talks about pride in terms of denial of needs. Pride is the unwillingness to admit our own need and suffering. The 2 often cannot sense his own need and suffering and believes that he doesn't have emotional pain that needs attention. So the opposite of that, since the defense is denial, simply to recognize what needs and feelings arise and allow them to enter without shutting them down. Practicing the affirmation that we have, that my needs are as important as others. You were talking about that earlier. And what supports this affirmation is in pausing more often, because my knee-jerk habit can be to say yes. Pausing helps to keep me in the equation. I don't need to throw the baby out with the bathwater, because giving to other people I care for will always be important to me, but also affirming that I am important too. Other examples of pausing before I speak, before responding to a text is a huge one. Listening to others, to myself when I speak, listening to the still small voice, which is most often my intuition, which is one of my strengths. Asking for help and asking again, repeating the type 2 mantra. Asking that second time is important, because it asserts that not only what I am asking for matters, but that I matter. This assertion lessens the shame that 2 suffer, that I am not enough, that I'm not worthy, etc. That happened to me recently, where I had to ask twice, and that's what thought came to me. Awesome. And then the really important part is my relationship with a higher power. This is important for me as a type 2. in using, I mean, there's all, I wrote a lot about this, but I don't think I have time to share it all. But the type 2 is so outwardly focused. My tendency is to place so much importance on focusing on others' opinion, approval, validation, comparing myself to others. And when I do, for example, this is just one example of a practice that I use, not all the time, but I use sometimes, is the two-way prayer, because it helps me to identify what I receive from the response of my higher power is actually that which is within me. So I am definitely finding that that practice helps take me away from being what I need from others. And then paying attention to opportunities for spontaneity and creativity. Finally, allowing and accepting myself for not doing any of this perfectly. I have seen myself recently express a need sharply, childishly even, but I abstained from judging myself. Instead, I was kind and supportive of myself. And here's the opposite. A good example of the opposite is I was able to pat my own self on the back. One of the hopes of this behavior is in allowing myself to show imperfect behavior, I can be vulnerable, either without shame or with less shame. I no longer will need to identify myself as being only being giving and generous to others, which promotes less separation between myself and others and points me in the direction of the gift of the Spirit, which is humility. So, but all of these are practices, and Michael Naylor's made a big difference in just, so I've been doing this stuff for a while, but it keeps coming up, and I keep having to do it. So anyway, thanks.
Yep, that's the way it works. So Robin, I saved something for you. I'm going to read it real quick. I can't even remember where I got it, but it was specifically a couple of weeks ago, you had talked about self-abandonment being part of that. And so I think it's a poem. I don't know what it is. It'll take me a minute. How often do we forget our origin, our soul, sacred, whole, radiant, traded piece by piece for approval, validation, or belonging? But your worth was never meant to be bartered. It is not granted by others. It is not conditional. It is already within you. When we entrust our happiness to someone else's hands, we forget the truth. You are not incomplete. You are not waiting to be chosen. You are already whole. True belonging begins when we stop abandoning ourselves. Stand in your own light. Honor your soul. Your dignity is not up for negotiation.
That's beautiful.
I love that. I'll send that to you. But I read it and went, oh, this is what Robin was talking about. So anyway, thank you. If you guys are catching on, I read a lot. So anyway, and so sometimes get caught up in it. But thank you, Robin, for that very much. Teresa, to you.
Hi, thank you. What I wrote, I had a little difficulty choosing one because I feel like so many of them are tied in, like the people pleasing, but I thought about it and I picked, I'm ready to have defensive over responsibility, which kind of leads into people pleasing. What I'm willing to do, the opposite is to have self-compassion for myself, trusting and, the process. I'm not going to do it perfectly, taking care of my own needs. And before I say yes to somebody, pause and think, am I doing this because I want to be loved or, validated, or is it for my own self-worth and my own healing? And don't volunteer right away. When somebody has something, I'm right in there, and I have to just not volunteer, not try to control and fix and rescue others, and just allow them to take responsibility. And whatever that outcome is for them, that's their outcome, not to get caught up in, well, if I would have did it, it would have been different. I should have helped. Or even it's like the people pleasing. That's really what it is. It's all, like somebody else was sharing another too, buying stuff for people, doing stuff that, it's just like I jump right in there. But since I'm trying not to do this and really trying, and I feel like I'm going through withdrawals, but I do feel like a peace, like, oh, I don't have to do that. I don't have to do all that. But with a lot of help from my higher power, God, because there's no way I could do it myself. But I'm feeling the effects of it, and it's going to be a slow process. So think about my needs first. That's the most important thing, and the reasons why I say yes.
So
Thank
one of
you.
the things that my sponsor used to say, because I'm also a step up kind of gal, right? And she would say, we do not have the right to do what other people are supposed to do for themselves, because that we stunt their growth in doing that. So we don't have the right to do that. We think we do. We think, especially twos, think, oh, right. But in reality, maybe that's a growth path for that person that you're getting in the way of, right? So it doesn't necessarily, even though it feels like it's serving them, it may not be serving them either. So that's another thing to think about.
Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. You bet. Dave, to you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dave. I'm a type 8. The one I picked, I tried to talk myself out of because I thought, no, that's too big. It's too hard. It's too whatever. And I just kept coming back to this. It's like, this really is the thing that's right in front of me again and again. And so I did pick a pretty big one for a type 8. I am entirely ready to have this one defense of lust for intensity removed. And I thought, well, I don't want to give up intensity. And that's not what it says. The word, the defense is lust. It's not intensity. And I thought, okay, can I give that up? Can I be ready to give that up? Yes, I can. Because when I look at my whole life, I feel like this is behind all of my addictions, all of the times I've done too much of anything and gotten in trouble with it and gotten in over my head and neglected things. That's the thing, is that going after these things so intensely, I neglect other things that are not as intense. And then I end up just operating in emergency mode all the time. It's like, it's not going to be intense until it's an emergency. And then it's an emergency. Okay, now it's intense. Now I'll focus on it. So I'm just ready to just not be in that, stress mode all the time anymore. So let's see, I can show my willingness to have it removed by doing the opposite, which is practicing enjoying the quieter, more peaceful experiences that are available to me. I can acknowledge this is a big, the instincts were really big for me in understanding this. I can acknowledge my self-preservation instinct, which I have repressed so much with my sexual instinct and social being so much stronger. I really neglected my self-preservation one. And one of the gifts of getting older is my self-preservation instinct is becoming really important now. So, but I can acknowledge my self-preservation instinct by taking care of my health, my home, my cars, and my finances. And none of those things seem very exciting or fun to do to me. And that's why I tend to neglect those. My spiritual teachers right now are my granddaughters. Got a 5-year-old, almost 5-year-old, who's definitely a type 8, super intense, really has a lust for intensity. And then our other one is 1-year-old, and she's a 9, as far as I can tell. And I watch them and think, what can I learn from them? And even my 5-year-old granddaughter, who loves excitement, but once in a while she'll do something really quiet, like she loves to work on puzzles. She loves to do artwork. Well, I look at that and think, well, that's not very intense. I don't want to do that. But, she can intensely do puzzles. She can intensely do artwork. And those are the kinds of things I need to learn how to do to practice this. Everything doesn't have to be, a roller coaster. So
Yeah,
that's all I've got. Thanks.
absolutely. Yeah, and lust for intensity is so Katya, you asked the question, what is that? That is it feels like a need to be intense, right? There's so much energy and it builds up and it makes you feel alive. And the lust for intensity, at least for me, when I'm in the middle of that, anything short of intense feels dead. It just feels dead. It just feels like useless and worthless and dead. So then there's this lust for intensity that makes you feel alive. And that usually screws things up, right? And it isn't the intensity that does, it's that lust for intensity, that need to have intensity. And once again, I think for the 8 at least, all addictions are tied to that for sure, because it's all about, right, bigger, greater, something, that seeking whatever it is. I don't know, that forward pushing stuff. So yeah, anyway, so the less for intensity. And I think it's interesting because 4s, I think, feel if they don't have strong, if they if they try to put a lid on strong feelings, that's what makes them feel dead and they want to feel alive. And for the 8, it's that it's intensity that I want, right? And it isn't even feeling intensity. It's just this, I don't know, it's like strong flavors. And I mean, just everything intense need to be intense in all kinds of different areas of my life. And I'm learning. I mean, and Dave, I'm with you too. I may do the less for intensity too. I still haven't picked mine yet. I figure I'm going to listen to all yours and then I'll figure out what I'm going to do. Anyway, thank you. Thank you, Dave. All right, Lauren, to you.
Good morning, afternoon, whatever. I almost want to put my hand down and just slink away again. Like, damn it. Because I'm getting sleepy and whatever. And I really related to that. I don't know. But you know, so I've been saying emotional intensity from day one, and now there's something you said a little while ago, and of course I already can't remember it because now my head is moving into fuzzy land. But you know, there's a part of me going, now, wait a minute, but I'm giving up a piece of myself. I mean, and a bigger part of me is like, I just have so much flipping doubt around everything. And I think it just starts with, I don't know, my mother-in-law, you guys, as much, she said one day, you don't know who you are. And I was like, oh, like, you know, in reality, she's kind of right, which even sucks more. But anyway, so that's what a lot of my things were listed around. I don't know. Now I'm starting to doubt it a little bit. Like, I feel like it is going to deaden me, even though I know it doesn't. But it's like, no, wait a minute. How do I remain real? Sorry for meltdown again.
That's okay. So later today, one of the slides I'm going to cover is like my favorite slide ever that I probably ever made. I just absolutely love it. And I want you to like lean into it big time. And I'll 20 minutes from now is when it'll be there. So, and then if you want to share on that, that would be awesome. Cool.
So should I wait? Because a lot of it is just dealing with the feelings. All these tips that I've learned and I've been working on for like a year with my therapist.
You're welcome to continue now if you want to. That's fine. But I am. I mean, matter of fact, when I built that, I was thinking of you when I built the slides. So
okay, I'll take a court
all right,
right now.
that's perfect. Okay, that's awesome. All right, thank you, Lauren. All right, Richard, to you.
Thank you, Cher. Appreciate it. I just want to start by saying that this activity was both fun and scary. It was fun because I got to be creative. I got to be playful. I got to think oh, well, you know, if I'm looking for an opposite behavior, why don't I? And at the same time, it was scary, verging on terrifying, because what I'm asking myself to do is to give up or to move in the opposite direction from things that I've identified as who I am, you know, albeit it was an ego construction, but nonetheless. Okay, so character defense, I want to give up self-righteousness, and the opposite behavior is number 1, breathe. And then I tell myself the people I'm being self-righteous about are somewhere on their own path to righteousness, but I don't know where. I will tell myself I'm not God. That's God's role is to direct people, not me. Okay. And now, Cher, I'm going to cheat a little bit, which is, you know, another opposite behavior for a type 1, because there is another one that I just want to mention really briefly, and that's rigidity is another character defense that I have. And this one was really fun because what I want to do is I want to strengthen my line, that arrow toward type 7. I want to try some activities that increase adrenaline in me. So maybe go to an amusement park and get on a roller coaster or a Ferris wheel or the drop tower, which is terrifying to me. And see, you know, can I have fun with that?
You'll have to come back and tell us how that goes if you do that. I love that. I love that. Thank you, Richard. Both of those are awesome. They're great. Thank you, Richard. Go ahead, Kim.
Good morning, everyone. Okay, so I'm a type 6. And one of the things that I do is future trip, and I pitch myself in the future, and then I wind up it's usually a catastrophic kind of story I tell myself. And then I'm fearful, and then I'm dreading whatever it is that's going to be coming in the future, even if it's fun. And so I'm entirely ready to have the defense of future tripping removed. And I'm willing to practice mindfulness. I can redirect my focus to what is happening now and trust that I'm safe right now. And then I can also keep repeating my mantra, faith is believing in things unseen, I'm guided within. But especially living in the moment, just bringing myself back. I'm safe right now and all is well. Yeah.
Awesome. So I want to say too, when I was having the MRI done, which is noisy and scary and all that stuff, this is going to sound really weird because I had to, my hands were up like this, and all I did was I petted one of my fingers. I just felt that. I could feel, right? And it sounds so weird. And I'd read somewhere to do that. And I'm like, okay, that seems weird. And I'm telling you, because it kept me present and not afraid, right? So it's just like, okay, this is the way it's supposed to sound. It doesn't matter. It's like, and whatever the outcome is, God will help me with it. And so it's all of that. And it's the same thing if like, I'm afraid of shots. I know I'm a big baby. Or like when they draw blood and shit, like I have needles. Ugh. I could never be a drug addict using needles. Anyway, so one of the things I do is I scratch my thumb. I just scratch my thumb, and it pulls my attention to that, because your energy flows where the attention goes, right? So it's like I do that and I don't even feel it at all. I mean, it sounds weird, but so some of this, Kim, add a physical piece to it.
Okay.
Right? Do something that makes you know you are present. It's the reason, by the way, when we start, we feel our feet on the floor, because it's like if you can realize, oh, I'm in a body here, right? Something that does that, I think it will help with that.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Kim. All right, Becca, to you.
Hi. Yeah, I'm type 4, kind of a combination, because they're both kind of interact with each other. And one is psycho-spiritual perfectionism. So it's not so much about being perfect, like with how my car looks or how I look or making a mistake. It's more about who I am in relationship to my values and the world and other people. And then over responsibility, I wove into there. So I'm willing to have my defense be removed of taking responsibility for other people's happiness or taking responsibility for their unhappiness. And then also just for their life's outcomes. And that's what the over responsibility part is.
Mm-hmm.
And the opposite would be that I'm just reminding myself I'm more than my relationships with others. My relationship to myself and the world is much more, it's much bigger than just my relationships. Having an awareness, catching myself in the moment, and reminding myself of my desire to give up on either taking responsibility if somebody's triggered, or taking or thinking that there's something I need to do if they're not happy to help them be more happy. Then I also said, kind of almost like a mantra, other people's happiness or unhappiness doesn't define me or my worth, and that I can be happy even if someone I care about isn't. So a lot of these are reminders for myself. And then when Dave was talking, it kind of helped me come up with another one, because what can happen is I can get so emotionally caught up in my relationships and my imperfections. If I'm blaming myself for something that realistically isn't even about me, then I lose a lot of my own personal energy for myself, and my emotions get caught up in that, and then I don't take care of my own self. So the idea of taking care of my health and my home is part of that. It's taking responsibility for my side, not getting so drained by looking at how other people are doing. And then I just put my happiness, I think I already kind of said this, but I don't have to be psycho-spiritually perfect in order to be a good person or in order to be loved.
Absolutely. Okay, so I want to say, I'm going to cover mantras here in a minute, but I'm going to give you another mantra whenever you feel the need that your job is to make someone else happy. You say out loud, maybe probably not to them, that would be rude, but but out loud, they'll get glad in the same clothes they got mad in. It is not yours, right? And once again, I used to also be very over responsible, in that 93-year-old friend of mine that I adore that passed away, that gave me that box that says mine and not mine. She's like, there's very few things that are in the mine box, very few. Almost all of them are in the not mine, right? And so, and then a friend of mine used to say, oh, they'll get glad in the same clothes they got mad in. And that helped me so much, because I felt so responsible for, and I'm sure it's a different motivation than the 4 has, right? But that was part of my being. And I just had to get to where I can't make that person happy. They're going to have to figure out how to make themselves happy. I can't do that. It's not even, I mean, I couldn't even do that if I wanted to do that. And now I don't even want to. Does it make sense? Okay.
Thank you.
He'll get glad in the same clothes he got mad in.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you. All right, Vera, to you.
Yes, hi. So I'm really frustrated because there hasn't been a day in which I haven't been angry. And the last time, I mean, yes, there was yesterday, because I was basically around no one. What I'm finding more and more is that there is this, the reason why I'm angry was because I was angry before. So there are resentments. It was the resentments were there already. And I feel guilty when I'm resentful. And so I kind of try to amend my ways. Turns out to be a shit show. Sorry. But it was on Friday with a client again. And I just, as you were speaking, I just realized that he engaged me for 6 hours, and it's been like 10 or 12 or whatever. And I feel sorry for him. And so I say nothing. And so I continue to. So anyway, I just wanted to touch base, because this week has been like a week for me to see my anger and see how so often has to do with the fact that I avoid setting boundaries, that I like to be, unlimited in my relationship to other people, that I want to I want to forgive for everything. And I don't want to be bothered with arguments. And then it's too late. And I'm meeting my ex-partner the day after tomorrow. And I pray to God that because it's July, that I'm going to have this removed at least for that day. I'm going to have the anger removed. Because it's July, 7th month, step 7. Please, God, remove this.
Okay, so
Yeah.
this is going to sound disingenuous, and it is not. What if you just accepted that you have resentments and anger, and you accept that and love yourself anyway? It's okay. And when you told the story about the client that changed his mind at the last minute or whatever, you had every right to be angry at him. So anger in and of itself, there are times that anger is, this is an 8 speaking, admittedly, but there's time that anger is absolutely appropriate, right? How you actually use that, right, may be questionable. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
yes.
to be, I mean, so it isn't that anger is bad, because anger is, it's one of the emotions, is right. For me, it used to be the default for everything. You don't want that. But so some of it, where we are is where we are. I have a slide later for you too. I'm telling you, this morning I was finding slides all over the place. So Lauren, I made you one, and Vera, you're going to see. All right. So thank you, Vera. All right, Katya, and then we're going to move on, because I want to cover mantras, and then I'm going to show those slides that I've been talking about. So go ahead, Katya.
Thank you. I was thinking of changing a lot of defenses of character, but I said, oh, thank God it's only one, because I wanted to do 50, 60 at the same time. So I don't know how to name it, but I want to say something hurt me very much during my stay, my vacations. And the first thing I said is, fuck everybody. Okay? Then I started to say, why do I always have to be criticizing or angry at others, or thinking they are not doing well? So after saying fuck everybody, I said, okay, I can, I made like a grieving of friends, of my house, of my town. And I want to be ready to have new friends in the new town I am, and letting everybody be as they are. The point here is maybe a little bit like taking care of myself. I don't know if that would be the word. The only thing I can control is me. So I want to trust myself, because if I get angry, explode, etc., I am not taking care of myself. And I liked what I heard here. It was like telling my truth with calmness, with education, with calmness, etc. No, so my goal is to not put myself first. Not let everything move me. Let other people things make me angry. Always looking inside of myself and putting myself first. And that's what I want to do. I don't know what is the name of that, but I want to do that and take care of myself.
Good. And I think, and so sometimes it's not going to be, God, remove this defect, this defense. It's going to be, I see the defense, and what I want is like the positive of that. It's like, help me replace that with something, you know what I mean? Like that. So I don't think we're saying name it because I want you to recognize it. But Katya, from what you're saying,
what is the name, Cher? What does it sound?
I think you would say something like, you're going to ask, when we get to step 7, you're going to ask your greater power to help you replace that, the anger, with something else. So whatever else with kindness.
I know what it is. I know what it is, because there was somebody drove me crazy yesterday again, and I couldn't, as I put in the chat. And today, my first response to this person through the WhatsApp was to say, see, I did what I promised. I hope you do it too. It's about time, blah, 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 no? And the only thing I said is, okay, thank you. I don't know if that's humility, not humility.
Well, it's at the very least, the prayer that says, help me to keep my mouth closed.
No,
right?
I don't know.
My heart open and my mouth closed. So maybe that's it. All right. Thank you, Katya. Okay, we're going to move on. I want to share my screen.
Thank you.
So we are now going to go over mantras. And once again, the mantra, I want to talk real quick about the purpose of the mantra is to give you, actually, I'm going to not share my screen because I want to be seen when I'm saying this. Okay. The purpose of the mantra is to give you something to say in the pause, because what we're actually praying for is the pause that Bill W. talks about, that basically says, when agitated or doubtful, I want that pause in there that says, do I act the way I've always acted in the past, or do I want to do something different? That's what the pause does. And if we insert into the pause, I will tell you, during this, when I was waiting for the outcome of the MRI that I had, every single day when I would go, and I never used to do this, but I did it this time. So every time I would feel myself getting whatever that is, anxious, I would say the 3rd step prayer, which means I had to memorize this 3rd step prayer, right? God, I offer myself to thee to build with me and do with me as thou wilt. Everybody remember the 3rd step prayer? It is worth learning the 3rd step prayer. It is worth learning. By the way, we're going to write your own personal 7th step prayer, your own personal one. We're going to do that as one of the exercises. But your mantra is another one, right? That I can't tell you. And Dave, I know you use this. Absolutely. Right? When it's like, I'm feeling weak, I'm feeling whatever, I can say, in my vulnerability lies my strength. That is the mantra for the 8. And it's useful to have that there. Mantras are supposed to be short, easy to memorize, and quick to hit. They're a quick hit. If you have named the right type, your mantra will make a difference in your life. It will change. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to grab exactly that, but if you're going to build your own mantra, don't make it long, make it short and pithy. Make it say exactly what it is that you need to hear day after day after day. Okay, now I'm going to share the screen again. All right. For the 1, the mantra is, it isn't always my responsibility. So Richard, I know as a 1, you may decide that your mantra needs to be something about the rigidity or the self-righteousness or whatever. You may decide it needs to be that, but it needs to be short just like that, right? All right. So that's the mantra for the 1, who is the merciful teacher. The mantra for the 2 is, ask for what you need and ask again, for the best love comes from a full well. That's a little bit long. Keep this one as short as it can be. Don't add want in there yet, because if you learn to ask for what you need, you will automatically learn how to ask for what you want. But the want doesn't come first. The need comes first. So if you can ask for what you need, and Robin, you talked about this earlier, ask for what you need and ask again, for the best love comes from a full well. All right. The 2 is an intuitive healer. Take a picture of this. If that's your type and you don't know your mantra, take a picture of it. Okay, here is the 3. To get to truth, I must be informed by my feelings. That is the mantra for the 3, because usually they will hide their feelings from themselves even. Everybody take a picture if you're a 3 and you want to take a picture of that. Here is the 4. The creative alchemist is the 4. I have everything I need in this moment to grow. I have everything I need in this moment to grow. Sometimes growing is a pain in the ass, by the way, but you have everything you need in this moment to grow. All right, that's the 4. Take a picture of it. I love that little tiger cub. All right, for the 5, making contact with my direct experience and feelings will bring greater clarity and not knowing. So the 5 really likes to know, they like to have a lot of knowledge, and they're observers as opposed to direct experience. So this basically says, if I have contact with direct experience and the feelings, that does bring greater clarity and knowing. So that's why the mantra for the 5 says this. Take a picture if you're a 5. For the 6, faith is believing in things unseen. I am guided within. I love the fact that this scared little mercat is called the courageous pathfinder, because that is what a grown and healthy 6, that's what they become, is a courageous pathfinder. Take a picture if you'd like of that. All right, here is the 7. Focus and staying present are my holy work. I am enough. The joyful visionary. And for the 7, I will say, I borrowed holy work and some of the things that I did because I love this. Focus and staying present is not just a good thing to do. It is your holy work if you're a 7. And the realization that you, as you are enough. Take a picture of this if you are a 7. And here is the 8, who is known as the lion-hearted protector. In my vulnerability lies my strength. All right. And here is the 9. I've got 2 up here because many 9s changed their mantra. The original mantra was resolve small things before they become big things. But a lot of people came up with something along the lines of my presence matters. So for some people, it's something like that. Some were doing like choosing to do things that would make them joyful or something like that. And my presence matter is another one of those. All right. So those are the mantras. I'm going to move on here real quick. Okay. So Lauren, this is the one for you. The instant we can accept what is not in our nature, rather than being distracted by all we think we could or should be, then all our inner resources are free to transform us into the particular self we are aching to be. The instant we can accept what is not in our nature, rather than being distracted by all we think we could or should be, then all our inner resources are free to transform us into the particular self we are aching to be. So I love the fact that it focuses on the fact that there are things that are not in our nature, and somehow it seems like we think we should be what is not in our nature, right? And what this basically is telling us is no. We have to realize that's not in my nature, right? I had to realize that I'm probably never going to be the peaceful person that I wish I was. I'm never going to be the mystery in the room. I'm never going to be that, right? That is not in my nature to be that, right? So I don't need to get distracted by wishing I was that. Then all those inner resources are free to transform me into what I'm aching to be. And I just love that. So one of the things that I want to say, once you realize that what is not in your nature, right? Then it's time for us to say goodbye to those things. And I'm going to read this one too. As we journey on in our new life, with all the changes that we're doing, we will lose our defensive ways of coping. When this happens, we need to stop and take time to grieve that loss. We need to put it away, cover the shame with compassion, and allow ourselves to grieve the loss of something that is familiar to us. When the time of grieving is over, we can journey on. Let me give you your assignment, and then I've got some other questions that I want to ask, but let me share that. I've got it here. So we've got 2 weeks to do this. And the assignment is first memorize your mantra. And then you want to read the first section of step 7. So Lori and Joy are going to post step 7 here in a minute if they haven't done that already. And that section is called Cultivate Humility and Self-Acceptance of step 7, and journal on the reflection questions of that section. So it's just section 1 of that, and we'll share on that in the breakout rooms next week. The breakout rooms, once again, it's going to be back to what it was, steps 1 through 3, maybe 4, where it's like you read the question and then you answer the question. You don't have to read it, but you want to read the question itself. We're going to go back to that and get a little bit more structure back into I kind of let 4 and 5 get a little loosey-goosey, and we're going to go back to very, very structured of that. So, okay, so we're going to share again. If anybody has, I'm going to stop sharing this. Lauren, did that speak to you?
No, I think it sort of did, but in typical fashion, there's a little bit of like, I mean, there's a piece that I get, but there's a piece going like, what? Because it's in my blind spot.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Yeah, and I think, and that is exactly what happens, but yeah, somehow we want to capture if we can. If you have a realization, capture it. I jot notes all the time. I can never find them, but I jot them down, and that's kind of how it sticks in my head. So thank you, Lauren. All right, Jim, to you.
I'd just like to say that, you're talking about kind of creating our own prayer for step 7. Well, I can feel guilt coming on straight away, because I was raised a Roman Catholic, though I'm not practicing it. I don't practice that anymore. So to write a prayer would be, a sin.
A sin? Is that what you said? Okay.
I think so. I think they put it under sin. So yeah, I just thought I'd share that for a second.
So if you don't want to call it a prayer, call it a request to your greater power. I believe in renaming things if it works for you. But yeah, so but we're going to have an actual exercise on that. So be ready for the exercise. And once again, you only do what you feel comfortable doing. If you don't feel comfortable doing, don't do it. I mean, it's okay. It's absolutely okay to not do that. But to me, it is helpful. I rewrite shit all the time. Even the things I quote, I'm like, no, I don't like this. I want them to say this instead. And I put that in there and because I am so much smarter than everybody else. I'm kidding. Okay.
Thanks for recovering with us.